I'm John Hanna for CDTV.net, and we have David Madigan, Chief Investment Officer, joining us here at the Root Quiz in Midtown Manhattan. Hi, David.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Now, David, tell us a little bit about municipal bond investing.
Well, a little bit on it is that we focus at Breckinridge primarily on high-grade intermediate municipal. So the risk that we take is usually pretty minimal. There's a lot of stories out there now, and you'll see headlines coming repeatedly on credit issues and pension problems and other issues that have been coming up in the market. Overall, we've been looking at it as that's an issue that needs to be addressed. It has to be looked at, but our research areas have been focused on looking at the pensions, other post-employment benefits, as well as the debt. And overall, what you find is about 80 to 90% of the municipals are still fine and not going to have any problems, and there's going to be some defaults that come into the market. But there's always some defaults that come into the market, and that's kind of what we expect. And the point is to avoid the potholes in the road when you're investing in munis. And that's one of the reasons for using a professional manager that's actually doing credit research rather than just going out and trying to buy them on your own.
And we have Ernest Cruikshank, Chief Investment Officer for Jamison, Eaton, and Wood, joining us here at the for lunch at the Root Quiz in Midtown Manhattan. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thanks very much, John. Nice to be with you.
Now, sir, let's talk about equity investment. What do you look for in equity investment at your shop?
Well, our shop is known more as a growth investor. We would define that a little further as the growth at a reasonable price. So we're looking for companies that are able to grow revenues and earnings in excess of the S&P, faster than GDP, and stocks that are available at reasonable valuations, offering some upside for investors over the long term.
Okay, so something like that, what would be a good example so that way people can have like a little bit of a roadmap?
IBM is a terrific company. It's gone through waves of technology innovation. It's made some very timely acquisitions. It has great management. It is generating, it's riding the curve of technology right now in all of its businesses, growing nicely, raising their dividend, buying back stock, building up cash. It's in a real sweet spot of its growth curve at the moment.
Now, okay, well, let's open up this discussion between the two of you guys. What would you ask David, Ernest?
I guess my biggest question to you is how do you get to the bottom of the finances of so many municipalities, and do you have any faith left in the rating agencies?
We have a staff of 9 credit analysts, which is probably the biggest credit analyst staff in the high-grade market that's out there. And most firms hire 9 analysts to do high yield, and we hire them to do high grade. So the way we get to the bottom is really just track it down. We either get the financials or we go back to the CFO of the town and call and say, where are the financials and where do you stand at this point? And it really takes that amount of work to follow up on it. And that's how we get to the bottom of it. Rating agencies, we've kind of discounted rating agencies. We had written a piece back in 2002 about how we didn't like insurance companies. So, overall, that's been kind of our belief all along, is that, in munis in particular, with the diversity and with the inefficiency, you really have to kind of specialize in what you're doing there.
And David, what do you have a question for Ernest?
Well, you talked about getting a little heavier in technology and heavy industry. Are you including the auto industry in your heavy industry? Are you looking at the Fords and the GMs, or are you kind of discounting that, given that the government is trying to back out of being in the industry?
Those are good questions. In technology, it's not all technology is working at the same time, and I think you have to. We try to identify certain themes that seem to be critical at the moment. The companies that are participants in anticipating the opportunities in cloud computing, those are companies that we like. Companies that are innovative and bringing out new product that satisfies a need for communication and mobility, they're in the sweet spot. So I think you have to, within any large industry sector, you have to look more carefully to find what are the companies and what are the smaller industry groupings where growth is, robust growth is occurring. In the industrial space, again, multinationals are where our greatest bets are. You find multinationals, quite frankly, not only in industrials, but in telecommunications. You have some international exposures, certainly in technology. You have it in the pharmaceutical industry, certain consumer staple companies. So it's globalization is a key theme. In the industrials, I think we're in a sweet spot for Ford, GM, Chrysler at the moment. I think consumer demand will continue to recover. The next year or two looks pretty good. But down the road, I think we've got awesome competitors all over the globe. And I think the auto industry hopefully has learned its lessons, will be better positioned for with good product for the future.
Wow, those are amazing Q&A between the two of them. That's David Madigan, the Chief Investment Officer for Breckinridge Capital Advisors, and the other person is definitely Ernest Cruikshank from Jamison, Eaton, and Wood, and he is the Chief Investment Officer. And I'm John Hanna for CDTV.net, joining us here for lunch at the Root Quiz in Midtown Manhattan. We would like to thank Root Quiz, and keep on listening. Watch out for our next investment lunch in February.